Eldad ha-Dani, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Eldad ha-Dani, or Eldad ha-Dani, or Eldad ben Matla ha-Dani, Hebrew, was a Jewish Hebrew writing merchant and traveled the 9th century. He professed to have been a citizen of an independent Jewish state in eastern Africa, probably in the Gaon region, inhabited by people claiming descent from the tribes of Dan, hence his name Hadani, the Danite, Asher, Gad, and Naphtali. Starting from this state, Eldad visited Babylonia, Cairo, and Spain, causing everywhere a great stir among the Jews by his fanciful accounts of the 10 lost tribes, and by the halakha which he asserted he had brought from his native country. These halakha, written in Hebrew, deal with the slaughtering and subsequent examination of animals, see kosher. They differ widely from the Talmudic ordinances and are introduced in the name of Joshua ben Nun, or, according to another version, of Othniel ben Kenaz. Eldad's account soon spread, and as usual in such cases were remolded and amplified by copyists and editors. There are no fewer than 8 versions with important variations. The following is a summary of Eldad's narrative according to the most complete of these versions. His travels. On leaving the land on the other side of the river, Cush, probably the Nile, Eldad traveled with a man of the tribe of Asher. A great storm wrecked the boat, but God prepared a plank for him and his companion, on which they floated until thrown ashore among a cannibal Ethiopian tribe called Rum. As to the existence in former times of such a tribe, see Metz, M-E-T-Z, and Das Judes Literaturblatt, 1877, number 41. The Asherite who was fat was immediately eaten, while Eldad was put into a pit to fatten. Soon after, a fire-worshipping tribe assailed the cannibals, and Eldad was taken prisoner. He remained in captivity during 4 years, when his captors brought him to the province of Azania, according to another version, to China, where he was ransomed by a Jewish merchant for 32 pieces of gold. Eldad continued his journey and fell in with the tribe of Issachar. Dwelling among high mountains near Media and Persia. Their land extending 10 days' journey on every side. They are at peace with all, and their whole energy is devoted to the study of the law. Their only weapon is a knife for slaughtering animals. Their judge and prince is called Nashon, and they use the 4 methods of capital punishment. The tribe of Zebulun occupies the land extending from the province of Armenia to the river Euphrates. Behind the mountains of Paran, the tribe of Reuben faces them. Peace reigns between these 2 tribes. They war as allies and divide the spoils. They possess the Bible, the Mishnah, Talmud, and Haggadah. The tribe of Ephraim and half of the tribe of Manasseh dwell in the southern mountains of Arabia and are very warlike. The tribe of Simeon and the other half of the tribe Manasseh are in the land of Kaisers. They take tribute from 28 kingdoms, and many Mohammedans are subjected to them. The tribe of Dan immigrated to the land of gold Havilah, Cush, shortly after the separation of Judah and Israel. The tribes of Naphtali, Gad, and Asher joined the Danites. Later, they have a king called Aduel ben Malchiel, a prince by the name of Elizaphan of the house of Eliab, and a judge named Abdan ben Meshiel, who has the power to inflict the 4 capital punishments prescribed in the law. The 4 tribes led a nomadic life and are continually at war with the 5 neighboring Ethiopian kings. Each tribe is in the field 3 months, and every warrior remains in the saddle without dismounting from one Sabbath to the next. They possess the entire scriptures, but they do not read the roll of Esther, not having been included in the miraculous salvation mentioned in it, nor Lamentations to avoid its disheartening influence. They have a Talmud in pure Hebrew, but none of the Talmudic teachers is mentioned. Their ritual is introduced in the name of Joshua, who had received it from Moses, who in his turn had heard its content from the Almighty. They speak only Hebrew. Eldad himself professed not to understand a word of Ethiopic or Arabic. On the other side of the river Cush dwelled the Bene Moshe tribe of Levi. The river Sambachon encircles their land. It rolls sands and stones during the 6 working days and rests on the Sabbath. From the first moment of Sabbath to the last, fire surrounds the river, and during that time no human being can approach within half a mile of either side of it. The 4 other tribes communicate with the Ben Moshe from the borders of the river. The Ben Moshe dwell in beautiful houses, and no unclean animal is found in their land. Their cattle and sheep, as well as their fields, bear twice a year. No child dies during the lifetime of his parents, who live to see a 3rd and 4th generation. They do not close their houses at night, for there is no theft or wickedness among them. They speak Hebrew and never swear by the name of God. Reception of his story. This fanciful narrative, the origin of which is to be found in the Haggadic language, of which Eldad must have been a very extensive knowledge, was accepted by his contemporaries as true. The inhabitants of Qaran were, it is true, troubled by the difference between his halakha and those of the Talmud, and by some strange Hebrew expressions used by him. But the Gaon Zema ben Hayim Azara, whose opinion they had asked, tranquilized them by saying that there was nothing astonishing in the 4 tribes disagreeing with the Talmud on some halakhic points. Moreover, Eldad's personality asserted that Gaon was known to him through Isaac ben Mar and Ara Simha, with whom the Danite associated while he was in Babylonia. His diary Ibn Shepra cites Eldad in his letter to the king of the Kaisers, and Eldad's halakha were used by both rabbinics, Rabbinites, and Karaites as weapons in defense of their respective creeds. Talmudic authorities like Rashi, Abraham ben David, Ravad, and Abraham ben Mammon quote Eldad as an unquestioned authority, and lexicographers and grammarians interpret some Hebrew words according to the meaning given them in Eldad's phraseology. Source of Prester John. The influence of Eldad's narrative extended beyond Jewish circles. It was the source of the apocryphal letter of the so-called Prester John, which appeared in the 12th century, intending to refute Eldad's assertion of the existence of independent Jewish states, an assertion contrary to the teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. The Christian writer told of a priest who ruled over the great kingdom of Ethiopia, to which were subject some Jewish tribes, including the Ben Moshe, who dwelt beyond the river Sebastian. However, many writers of the Middle Ages expressed doubts as to the genuineness of Eldad's narrative in his Halakha, most explicitly Abraham Ibn Ezra, commentary to Exodus 2:22, and Mayor of Rothenburg, responsa number 193. 19th century opinions. Modern, that is, up to 1906, critics were divided in their opinions concerning Eldad. Pinsker, Gratz, and Adolf Nabuhr saw in him a Karaite missionary, endeavoring to discredit the Talmud by his statement that the four tribes did not know names of Taniam and Amorim, and that their halakha were different from those of the Talmud. This opinion was refuted by Moses Skor and Adolf Jelinek, who observed that Eldad's halakha contained rules concerning the examination of slaughtered animals, which are not accepted by the Karaites. P. Frankel regarded Eldad as a mere charlatan whose sayings and doings are not worth attention. Reifman denied outright the existence of Eldad and considered the letters of the community of Karan and of Zimah ben Hayam of Zorah to be forgeries. Metz was the first to analyze the contents of Eldad's book in the light of the reports of other travelers. A. Epstein followed Metz's method and came to the conclusion that Eldad's book is somewhat of the nature of a historical novel in which truth is mixed with imagination. The halakha are, according to him, genuine and were in use among the countrymen of Eldad, either in a province of eastern Africa or in Yemen, where the Jews at the time knew Hebrew but not the Talmud. But Eldad could not have been a native of Ethiopia, the country of the Philoshes, since there only Ge'ez is spoken, and no trace of this language appears in Eldad's Hebrew. There are, however, traces of Arabic, which Eldad must have known, although he asserted the contrary. Some Zionist thinkers have considered Eldad Hadani to be an early procurer of that movement as having presented to the Jews of his time the bright vision of a sovereign Jewish state. The radical, revisionist, Zionist Israel Eldad, whose original family name was Schib, S-C-H-E-I-B, had taken Eldad as his nom de guerre during his involvement in the anti-British underground, later made this his official family name. This page was last modified on 7 March 2011 at 37 hours.